Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas. I'm Molly Kampi. Let's get started. Our top focus tonight on Gravitas is on the latest from West Asia. A lot happening with Iran and the US set to hold a new round of talks on Thursday. Military assets being moved, a lot happening behind the scenes, with what experts call Iran's ring of fire being tightened. We are decoding all of this and lots more in just a bit. Also on the show for you tonight, what is the hexagon alliance that the Israeli Prime Minister is planning? We get you a detailed report. Also getting you the latest on the situation in Mexico with the killing of the drug lord El Mencho, triggering violence on the ground. All this and more coming up. West Asia remains on edge. Military assets are being moved, proxy forces mobilizing, while Tehran is tightening what experts call its ring of fire. Washington, meanwhile, continues to expand its military footprint in the region. In fact, the world's largest warship is sailing towards the region. The USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier is already in position. Both Gerald R. Ford and Abraham Lincoln lead the strike groups with several guided missile destroyer warships. They are operated by more than 5,600 crew and carry dozens of aircraft. The Pentagon has rushed over 50 fighter jets, including F-22s, F-35s, F-16s. And that's not even all. Reports indicating that at least 108 American air tankers are either deployed or heading into the CENTCOM theater. A clear sign that Washington is preparing for sustained air operations if required. Tehran, remember, has repeatedly warned that American bases and naval assets in the region are legitimate targets. Regional allies have cautioned the US that Iran retains enough firepower to inflict serious damage if the conflict erupts. But Iran's strategy goes far beyond conventional retaliation. It has built what experts describe as a ring of fire. A strategic axis of armed groups designed to encircle Israel and pressure US interests. And that network includes the Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, and powerful Shia militias in Iraq. And the aim is pretty simple: to stretch any adversary across multiple fronts and raise the cost of war. And it appears Iran is already activating this doctrine. According to Arab media reports, a significant shift is taking place inside Hezbollah. Officers from Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, are now directly overseeing operations, replacing traditional Lebanese leadership structures. According to the reports, IRGC personnel have arrived in Lebanon and are conducting regular meetings with Hezbollah commanders. issuing operational guidance and accelerating military preparations. The move signaling that if there is any Israeli or American strike, Tehran and its proxies are prepared for retaliatory strikes. At the same time, Iran is strengthening its air defense. According to a Financial Times report, Tehran has signed a secret $589 million arms deal in Moscow in December. Under the agreement, reportedly, Russia will supply 500 Weber shoulder-fired launch units, 2,500 9M336 missiles over 3 years. The Weber system is one of Russia's most advanced portable air defense weapons. Small mobile teams can deploy it quickly to target cruise missiles, drones, low-flying aircraft without actually relying on fixed radar systems that are vulnerable to attack. And the deal also includes 500 night vision sites, enabling operations in darkness, especially for tracking aircraft. Experts say the acquirement of thousands of advanced shoulder-fired missiles could potentially complicate U.S. helicopter missions and also low-altitude flight operations like the ones used in the recent capture of the Venezuelan leader, Nicolas Maduro. The missiles require limited training and can be integrated rapidly as such. All of this is unfolding as diplomacy struggles to actually keep pace with the military build-up on the ground. Iran and America are scheduled to hold the third round of nuclear talks on Thursday. Oman's foreign minister has confirmed the meeting amid the rising fears of open conflict. US President Donald Trump last week warned that really bad things will happen if no agreement resolves the long-running dispute over Tehran's nuclear program. Iran's foreign minister and lead negotiator has said he is drafting a proposal that will be delivered once Tehran's leadership approves it. According to Axios, Washington expects to receive that proposal by Tuesday. But even as negotiations continue, the warnings are growing sharper.
I don't want to use the word frustrated. It's almost because he understands he's got plenty of alternatives. But it's curious. He's curious as to why they haven't, I don't want to use the word capitulated, but why they haven't capitulated.
While Iran, on the other hand, blamed the US for mixed signals.
We have no benefit in the continuation of the negotiations. Negotiations are beneficial for us when they lead to a result. Contradictions and opposing, inconsistent positions taken by various American officials constitute a major obstacle in the course of the negotiations.
Witkoff and Iran's statements in a nutshell, perhaps capturing where things stand right now. The question still is, will diplomacy break the so-called ring of fire or ignite it? Switching gears for now, the Israeli Prime Minister has announced plans to build a hexagon alliance. He describes it as a network of allied nations in and around West Asia. This strategic grouping is aimed at countering radical adversaries in the region. Netanyahu said this proposed framework would basically bring together countries that see eye to eye with Israel on key security and strategic issues. He specifically referred to India ahead of Prime Minister Modi's upcoming visit to Israel. Listen to this.
In the vision that I see before my eyes, we will create a complete system, essentially a kind of hexagon of alliances around or within the Middle East. This includes India, this includes Arab countries, this also includes African countries, and also countries in the Mediterranean, Greece and Cyprus, and also countries in Asia that I will not list right now. I will present it in an orderly manner.
Now, Netanyahu has described this initiative as a hexagon. It's essentially a six-sided alliance of nations cooperating across three key areas: economic cooperation, diplomatic alignment, and security collaboration. The idea is to create a strategic counterweight to Iran and its network of regional proxies, who are often referred to as the axis of resistance. While Netanyahu did not actually spell out all the countries involved or clarify his reference to an emerging radical Sunni axis, quote unquote.
The intention here is to create an axis of countries that see the reality and the challenges and the goals with one eye against the radical axis. both against the radical Shiite axis that we have struck very strongly, and also against the emerging axis, the radical Sunni axis. These countries all share a different perception, and the cooperation between us can yield very great fruits and also, of course, ensure our strength and future.
The concept appears to mirror other multi-nation corridor and connectivity projects, including the proposed India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor, which seeks to boost trade and infrastructure linkages between India, West Asia and Europe. The proposal has drawn sharp criticism from Hamas. Hamas saying the initiative was an attempt to reshape the region in a way that serves Israeli interests and urged Arab states to consider its implications for regional stability. This diplomatic push also comes months after a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. Following the prolonged and devastating conflict that lasted nearly 2 years, the war has had wide-ranging humanitarian, political, diplomatic consequences across the region and beyond. The bloodshed in Gaza has strained Israel's ties with several Arab countries. Ties with Turkey, for example, have worsened, with President Erdogan openly criticizing Israeli actions. Prospects for normalization with Saudi Arabia, once seen as a major diplomatic breakthrough in the making, have also faced setbacks amid disagreements over Gaza and developments in the West Bank. At the same time, Israel continues to maintain close ties with several Arab states under the US-backed Abraham Accords framework. Since 2020, in fact, Israel has established or strengthened ties with the UAE, Bahrain, and Morocco. These partnerships have expanded across trade, technology, tourism, security, and remain a cornerstone of Israel's regional diplomatic strategy. Against this backdrop, Prime Minister Modi's visit to Israel this week takes on added significance. This will be his second visit to the country since his landmark 2017 trip, which was the first ever by an Indian Prime Minister. Special attention is expected to be paid to the personal rapport between the two leaders. Netanyahu has publicly referred to Prime Minister Modi as a close friend, and the two have maintained regular contact over the years. During this two-day visit, Prime Minister Modi is expected to address the Israeli parliament and hold high-level talks aimed at deepening cooperation in areas like technology, AI, defense, security, agriculture, also water management and trade. Shifting focus now to Mexico, it remains on edge. One of its most wanted and feared drug lords has been killed by the security forces. El Mencho, as he was called, was killed during that operation to arrest him. He was the leader of a major drug cartel. Soon after his death, chaos spiraled across the country, and his death triggered violent retaliation across multiple Mexican states. Members of his cartel set vehicles on fire, blocked highways, caused havoc. Parts were emptied out, residents sheltered indoors, schools in several parts cancelled classes. Mexican authorities have activated what's called Code Red. They have deployed over 2,500 troops to contain that violence.
Vivimos horas críticas.
We experienced critical hours in which incidents were addressed in different parts of the state and the metropolitan area. Coordination between various agencies at all levels of government was key. The main objective on this day has been to safeguard the safety of the people. Therefore, early this morning, from this security meeting, which is in permanent session, we activated Code Red, which remains in effect.
Visuals of the aftermath showing the extent of damage that was caused. Torched vehicles strewn across Mexico's western state. Cartel members blocked more than 20 roads there, burning cars, trucks, whatever came in their way. El Mencho died on Sunday while being transported to Mexico City after sustaining severe injuries during that confrontation between his followers and the army. His death represents one of the government's most notable successes in the fight against drug cartels and serves as a significant development for the Trump administration as well. Remember, under U.S. pressure, Mexican authorities struck against El Mencho, the 59-year-old former police officer who ran that drug cartel. He was the central figure responsible for smuggling vast amounts of fentanyl, cocaine, and meth into the United States, reportedly. The cartel is classified as a terrorist organization by Washington, and the US was offering $15 million for information leading to his capture. Soon after his death, the US, Canada, India, Australia, Ireland issued travel advisories for Mexico because of the massive cartel unrest. More than 250 blockades were reported across 20 Mexican states. Several airlines have cancelled flights to the country. 4 FIFA matches that were scheduled in that area have also been cancelled. Let's tell you more about El Mencho, who was born in Mexico in 1966. He migrated illegally to the US in the 1980s, where he served prison time before being deported. Back in Mexico, he joined the law enforcement for a while, gaining contacts and operational knowledge, and he then entered the drug trade with the Sinaloa cartel. He rarely left his hideout in the Sierra Madre Mountains. In a sign of growing bonhomie between the world's two biggest economies, US President Donald Trump is embarking on a visit to China from the 31st of March to the 2nd of April. His previous visit to the country was in November 2017 during the first term of his presidency. The bilateral ties between the two sides have seen ups and downs since Trump commenced his second term in office. After the initial tariff war, both sides backed down in May last year, while the US agreed to lower its tariffs from 145% to 30%. China, meanwhile, decided to drop its retaliatory tariffs from 125% to 10%. Beyond that, the situation escalated again in October 2025, when Trump, remember, threatened to levy 100% more tariffs on China, citing its export curbs on rare earths. And a month later, the scenario evolved after the US president met Xi Jinping. Subsequently, Trump announced a trade and economic deal with China, and according to him, China promised to eliminate export controls on rare earth elements and other critical minerals, end its retaliation against US semiconductor manufacturers, and resumed the purchase of soybeans. So while there is great anticipation about the possible outcomes from the upcoming meeting, it has also evoked memories of the first ever visit of a US president to China and how Beijing has repeatedly reaped advantage of American overtures. To start with, the US had no diplomatic relations with the People's Republic of China since its formation in 1949. Instead, it recognized the Taiwan-based Republic of China as the legitimate government of China. However, US sought for a reconciliation with Beijing to improve ties with the communist governments in wake of the Vietnam War, undermine alliances between communist countries, and also increase leverage against the Soviet Union, which was endangering China as well. So in February 1972, Richard Nixon became the first US president to visit mainland China in office. The visit paved way for the establishment of formal diplomatic relations between the two countries from 1979 onwards. As per the joint statement, Beijing got a major boost as America recognized Taiwan as part of China. It also terminated diplomatic ties and a mutual defense treaty with Taiwan. And this effectively ended China's isolation in the West and safeguarded it from the Soviet Union. However, China is perceived to have benefited more from this agreement as it persisted with its unique political governance and economic model while steering clear of any interference from the West in a way. Additionally, the Chinese government enhanced its ties with Russia in the 1990s. After the fall of the Soviet Union, China is also believed to be working towards establishing its hegemony in the Asia-Pacific region, something it agreed not to do as part of that agreement with the US. China's failure to keep its commitment in a way also came into focus when the Phase 1 trade deal was signed between the US and China in January 2020. For instance, the Xi Jinping-led government committed to increase the volume of US imports by more than $200 billion over a period of 2 years. This included a variety of US food, agricultural, seafood, energy products. But data indicating that China bought only 58% of the US goods, which it agreed to buy by the end of 2021. Also, US exports to China in 2020 were $16 billion lower than 2017, just to give you the context. And as Trump eyes furthering ties with China, Taiwan remains the sticking point, of course, with Beijing making its reservation absolutely clear over the $11 billion arms package announced by America. Meanwhile, the global trade landscape is back in flux after the US Supreme Court struck down the sweeping tariffs imposed by Donald Trump. Within hours, the administration announced temporary across-the-board tariffs of 10%, later raised to 15% using Section 122 authority. Let's just break this down for you bit by bit. Economists and trade experts are saying at this point that Section 122 may not apply in the current economic environment. The law basically requires a large and serious balance of payments deficit. While the US has run a trade deficit for decades, analysts pointing out that this is offset by capital inflows into American financial markets, meaning there is no overall balance of payments deficit. Meanwhile, Neil Katyal, the Indian-American lawyer who fought the tariff battle against Trump, remember, reiterating his criticism on the new tariff plan. And experts also argue that Section 122 was designed for a fixed exchange rate era when the dollar was pegged to gold and reserve shortages posed real risks. And with the US operating under a flexible exchange rate system for over 50 years, several economists are saying the legal justification for invoking Section 122 is weak. And the move effectively resets US tariff policy while creating fresh uncertainty for trading partners. The European Commission has demanded full clarity from Washington, warning that unpredictable tariff changes undermine the EU-US trade deal, and the terms set a 15% ceiling for most goods and allowed zero tariffs on select sectors like aircraft. Global partners reacted cautiously as policy volatility returned to the forefront. China has said it is assessing the ruling and urged the US to remove unilateral tariff measures. In fact, European officials also warned that sudden tariff shifts risk disrupting the supply chains, business planning, and cross-border investment as well. India also reassessing its options in the face of the new US tariffs. The European Central Bank president, meanwhile, flagged the risk of renewed business disruption, stressing that companies need predictable trade rules. Switzerland, meanwhile, signaled US tariffs could become a long-term feature, while governments started reviewing existing trade agreements for potential exposure. Political leaders, including the French president, acknowledged the role of the US institutional checks, but also warned against escalating trade tensions. And Trump's new tariff strategy faces multiple pitfalls. The legal scrutiny over the use of Section 122, the implementation complexity, also the risk of refund claims on previously paid duties. Some estimates, in fact, suggesting companies may have overpaid more than $100 billion in tariffs, raising the prospect of lengthy reimbursement battles. For markets and businesses, the key issue here is clarity. In just one word, whether the new tariffs become permanent policy or trigger another round of legal and trade disputes. All right, on that note, some breaking news coming in. US President Donald Trump has warned trading partners of higher and worse tariffs. That's the latest coming in. In fact, Donald Trump issuing that warning, he's warning trading partners of higher and worse tariffs if they quote-unquote play games. Following the US Supreme Court verdict against his tariffs, on his Truth Social account, the US president posted, I'm quoting now, "Any country that wants to play games with the ridiculous Supreme Court decision, especially those that have ripped off the US for years and even decades, will be met with a much higher tariff and worse than that which they just recently agreed to." That's the statement coming in from the American president. And this, of course, coming in after the US Supreme Court verdict on Friday, a massive development. Trump initially announced 10% global tariffs, remember, increasing it to 15% the very next day. And now another warning coming in from the American president against that backdrop. Let's get in further details now from our correspondent, Susan Tehrani, who's been tracking those developments. Tell us more about what the president has said, Susan. Of course, this is a renewed attempt to also send out a message to the countries the world over about the use of tariffs in a way to exert pressure.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like the White House is backing down, because I think with each passing day, and we've seen this with Trump's social media posts, something new comes in. And I think with each passing day, they are sort of navigating the tools that they have in their toolbox. Now, while there's been a lot of focus on Section 122, understandably so, because it was the fastest and most immediate replacement to the Supreme Court ruling, there is a Section 301, which is a country-specific trade action that the United States can use. This is sort of the China-style model, where investigation by the U.S. Trade Representative starts, and then you find unfair trade practices from countries. The advantages are that it's durable in court. It has already been tested legally and can last for years. It's not temporary like Section 122. But the downside is the investigation itself to see which countries go into this category can take months. But this seems the most legally stable long-term option, and perhaps the president has been briefed that this may be a path forward for countries that resist, and that's why he put out this social media post. But, you know, just the big unresolved issue right now, like you mentioned, Molly, is those refunds, because the court invalidated this IEEPA tariff. It didn't say what happens with refunds and what happens with countries who've already paid under this act. So, you know, that's the part that we have to wait and see. But in terms of whether or not the White House can continue with its trade and tariff policies, they can do so, but with so much uncertainty. We're not sure how that's going to play out in terms of perception and moving forward with trade with other countries.
Indeed. So a lot of question marks there, Susan. At the same time, this does give us some clarity about the stance taken by the U.S. president. He is clearly hardening his stance as far as the tariffs are concerned. Leaving it there. Thanks very much. And before we go on any further, a quick look at what else is coming up for you on the show tonight. The president of Bangladesh claims Mohammad Yunus tried to remove him. Getting you the details. This is coming up in just a bit. Four years of the Russia-Ukraine war, getting you a comprehensive report as the war drags on. Why is NASA delaying the launch of the historic moon mission, and what's happening, telling you all that you need to know. The world's most advanced supercarrier has reached the front line, but behind the steel hull, a silent crisis seems to be brewing. Washington has triggered the largest military surge since the 2003 Iraq invasion. But now reports indicate that the mighty USS Gerald R. Ford is grappling with a crippling sewage crisis. America's top warship facing readiness doubts just when war looms. Take a look.
Warships stack the horizon. Fighter jets rotate through desert bases. Missile defense batteries lock into position. This is the largest American military buildup in West Asia since the Iraq War. US already has the USS Abraham Lincoln in the region. Now it is joined by another aircraft carrier. The USS Gerald R. Ford, the most advanced and powerful aircraft carrier ever built. A 100,000-ton nuclear-powered giant, capable of launching more sorties per day than any carrier before it, armed with stealth fighters, surveillance aircraft, and electronic warfare systems, a floating fortress designed to dominate sea and sky. But beneath the deck, questions are rising. Recent reports reveal that the Ford's crew has been grappling with a persistent sewage system crisis. Waste backing up, maintenance crews stretched. The US Navy's top leadership had previously warned that extending deployments could damage maintenance cycles and strain sailors already operating at high tempo. Facing a grave threat, Iran has assembled a diverse and sophisticated arsenal designed to confront the US Armada. Supreme Leader Khamenei declares US carriers as sinkable targets, boasting of dangerous weapons. Tehran amplifies the threat with chilling AI-generated videos showing US aircraft carriers engulfed in flames.
I think there is no limited strikes. An act of aggression would be regarded as an act of aggression, period. And any state would react to an act of aggression as part of its inherent right of self-defense ferociously. So that's what we would do.
Tehran is making it clear that a US attack of any scale would spur the Islamic Republic to respond ferociously. This after President Donald Trump said he was considering limited strikes against the country. The two countries concluded a second round of indirect talks in Switzerland under Omani mediation. Further talks confirmed by Iran and Oman are scheduled for Thursday. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
With the new government taking charge in Dhaka, former chief advisor Muhammad Yunus has come under fresh fire, this time from the country's highest constitutional authority, the president of Bangladesh. In an interview to a Bengali newspaper, he in fact described the period following the 2024 July uprising as a time of conspiracies aimed at creating a constitutional vacuum and permanently destabilizing the country. He also accused Yunus of trying to remove him from the president's post in an unconstitutional manner. He also alleged that Yunus wanted to replace him with a former Chief Justice who refused to take up the post, also reportedly adding that he felt like a prisoner in a palace during the term of the interim government. This was not all. In another sensational charge, he accused the former interim government of blocking his official visits to Kosovo and Qatar. And he also claimed that Yunus failed to observe constitutional propriety by not briefing him on the output of his foreign visits. For instance, the Bangladeshi president asserted that he had no information on the country's recent trade deal with the US. According to him, he virtually had no communication with Yunus during the interim government's 18-month-long tenure. Interestingly, he was full of praise for the role played by the BNP chairman Tariq Rahman, and he asserted that BNP's top leadership were not in favor of removing him through unconstitutional means. He revealed that the same stance was taken by the chiefs of Army, Navy and the Air Force. That's what he says. And this assumes significance as well, as he was elected unopposed as president, remember, in 2023. As a nominee of ex-Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's Awami League, which is a bitter rival of the BNP. And in December last year, he hinted at resigning after the election, citing humiliation from the Yunus-led government. These revelations coming in the wake of growing suspense about the future plans of Yunus. While the Nobel laureate resumed his duties as the Yunus Center head on Sunday, speculation is also rife that he wants to continue in the corridors of power by eyeing the president's post. Along with the Bangladesh election, a referendum was also held, remember. Yunus's endorsement of a yes vote was perceived as a sign of him potentially vying for the president's position. This is because the referendum contained proposals vastly enhancing the powers of the president, providing scope for independent decision-making, and this included capping the number of terms for a prime minister and allowing the president to make key appointments without the cabinet's recommendations. However, this process suffered a setback after the BNP came to power by winning 209 seats in the recently concluded general election. To begin with, BNP MPs refused to take oath as members of the Constitutional Reform Council, which was supposed to legislate on the proposal cleared by the referendum. In fact, similarly, the new government has shown indications of differing with the chief advisor's foreign policy pivot, while the ex-interim government has also been gaining a lot of attention with its moves. In fact, it also, remember, New Delhi has also been watching those developments, repeatedly insisting on Sheikh Hasina's extradition and enhancing its relationship with Pakistan. The BNP has stressed on, meanwhile, improving bilateral ties with India, although the BNP has not publicly revealed who its next presidential pick will be. The future moves of Yunus will be closely observed. 4 years of war, 2 million casualties, cities reduced to dust. Both Russia and Ukraine continue to launch attacks on each other. And now, Vladimir Putin raising the nuclear stakes as the Ukraine war completes 4 brutal years. Moscow signaling a chilling new priority. Take a look.
For 4 years, the Russia-Ukraine war has burned through fields, factories and families. Tanks rolled, drones swarmed, missiles screamed across skies. The front lines shifted, but the violence never stopped. Now the battlefield widens, not with troops, but with warheads. President Vladimir Putin has declared the development of Russia's nuclear forces an absolute priority. The message is blunt. In the middle of a grinding conventional war, Moscow is doubling down on its nuclear triad. Land, sea, air, all modernized already.
The development of the nuclear triad, which serves as a guarantee of Russia's security and effectively ensures strategic deterrence and a balance of power in the world, remains an unconditional priority.
Russia already holds one of the largest nuclear arsenals in the world. There are roughly 12,000 nuclear warheads in existence. The United States and Russia together control nearly 90% of them. Now, Moscow is sharpening its edge. Reports suggest Russia is moving advanced systems closer to NATO's doorstep. Among them, the Oreshnik missile system, described as a next-generation capability designed to penetrate defenses. Western analysts say that the deployment of Russian tactical nuclear weapons in Belarus has heightened military tensions in the region and increases the risks of military escalation. As Western leaders debate new security guarantees and military aid for Kyiv, Putin is investing in its ultimate insurance policy. Nuclear forces as priority. Nuclear forces as the ultimate deterrent. 4 years ago, this war began with tanks crossing a border. Today, it enters a phase where the shadow of the mushroom cloud looms larger than ever. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Our next story is from India, where in a significant move to bust away from the colonial past, the statue of British architect Edwin Lutyens will be replaced with Chakravarti Rajagopalachari in the central courtyard of the Rashtrapati Bhavan. The announcement was made by Prime Minister Modi during the 131st episode of his monthly radio program Mann Ki Baat. The Prime Minister described the move as part of a larger national effort to shed colonial-era symbols. He also said the decision reflects the spirit of the pledge articulated during Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, particularly the resolve to free the country from what he called a mentality of slavery.
राष्ट्रपति भवन में राजाजी उत्सव मनाया जाएगा। इस अवसर पर राष्ट्रपति भवन के केंद्रीय प्रांगण में श्री राजगोपालाचारी जी की प्रतिमा का अनावरण किया जाएगा। वे स्वतंत्र भारत के पहले भारतीय गवर्नर जनरल थे। वे उन लोगों में थे जिन्होंने सत्ता को पद की तरह नहीं, सेवा की तरह देखा।
The statue was unveiled today. This was a part of a commemorative celebration honoring his legacy. This will be followed by a special exhibition dedicated to his life and contributions. It is scheduled to run from the 24th of February to the 1st of March. Popularly known as Rajaji, who was a towering figure in India's freedom movement and post-independence politics. In fact, he holds the unique distinction of being the first and only Indian to serve as Governor General of India after independence, succeeding Lord Mountbatten. An early and close associate of Mahatma Gandhi, he was so trusted by Gandhi that he was described as the keeper of my conscience, quote unquote. He served as the Premier of the Madras Presidency before independence and later as the Chief Minister of Madras State. A man of strong convictions, he went on to found the party in 1954 and he was awarded the Bharat Ratna as well. The decision also meaning that the bust of Edwin Lutyens, which stood in the president's official residence for decades. The move is being viewed as both symbolic as well as historic, replacing a representation of British imperial architecture with a leader who played a pivotal role in India's transition to self-rule. Edwin Lutyens was a British architect who played a central role in designing New Delhi after King George V declared it the imperial capital of British India in 1911, replacing Calcutta. Lutyens was the principal architect. In collaboration with Herbert Baker, he designed several monumental buildings in New Delhi, including Rashtrapati Bhavan, the North Block, South Block, and India Gate. And in recognition of his contribution, a part of New Delhi is also known as Lutyens Delhi. This nomenclature is often deployed in political circles as well to denote the elites of Delhi in a way. As India continues to redefine its public spaces and national symbols, the replacement of Lutyens' bust with the statue of Rajagopalachari marking more than just a change in stone and bronze. It represents a shift in historical emphasis as well. Meanwhile, India is sharpening its military edge with two key Quad partners, Indian and US Special Forces pushing limits in the 3-week exercise. While starting tomorrow in Uttarakhand, Indian and Japanese troops will conduct 2-week-long exercises. Our next report telling you more. The Trump administration is struggling. You know, with what? Foreign policy, internal domestic issues, maybe? No, that's not it. The White House cannot figure out how it wants to spend $500 billion because the Trump administration is reportedly scrambling to finalize a historic surge in military spending. After US President Donald Trump last month agreed to a roughly 50% funding boost sought by Pete Hegseth, the War Secretary, in the White House's annual budget proposal. But turning that promise into a concrete budget has proven to be far more complicated than announcing it. Officials now are facing the enormous challenge of actually deciding where exactly to place an additional $500 billion. According to a Washington Post report, the sheer size of the increase has slowed the broader White House spending plan and pushed the administration more than 2 weeks past its legal deadline to submit a full budget proposal to the Congress. Behind closed doors, concerns are reportedly mounting. Budget officials have warned that such a dramatic increase could deepen the already widening federal deficit. And the United States already approved a record-breaking $900 billion defense budget last year, remember? The largest in its history. So then where will the Pentagon invest that large amount is the question. Will it pour billions into replenishing weapons stockpiles, including Tomahawk cruise missiles, Patriot interceptors, naval missiles? Will it invest heavily in emerging technologies like AI to prepare for future warfare? Or will the Pentagon modernize its aging Cold War era nuclear weapons? Last month, in a post on Truth Social, Trump said that the budget will allow the US to build the dream military that will keep the US, quote unquote, safe and secure regardless of foe. That statement on your screen. So as Washington basically attempts to engineer its largest military funding jump, the question still is not just over whether the US Congress will approve it, but whether the administration can clearly define how to spend that money. The rocket meant to take human beings back to the moon is moving backwards. At least the plan is. NASA's most powerful launcher is being rolled back again. After years of delay, Artemis faces a fresh test of nerve and credibility. Our next report getting you the complete story.
The towering silhouette of the Space Launch System was supposed to be a monument to human ambition. A 322-foot rocket ready to take astronauts toward the lunar horizon. Instead, it has become a symbol of technical frustration. Just as the momentum for the Artemis II mission reached a fever pitch, the roar of progress was replaced by the grinding sound of a massive machine being wheeled backward. The gateway to the stars has been slammed shut once again, and the reason is a recurring nightmare for the world's topmost space agency.
I am going to caveat that. I want to be open, transparent with all of you that there is still pending work. There's work, a lot of forward work that remains, including the post-wet dress analyses, of course. We do have some significant work to be completed out of the pad.
4 astronauts are preparing to be sent on the 10-day trip to the far side of the moon and back, marking humanity's furthest ever journey into space. But this isn't just a minor tweak. It is a full-scale retreat from the pad. The decision follows a devastating sequence of events, starting with hydrogen leak earlier this month that already pushed the mission into a corner. Disruption to helium, which is used to pressurize fuel tanks and cool rocket systems, is being treated as a serious technical issue. Engineers are now grappling with a fresh set of hardware issues that pushes the launch window again.
As I said, I think we are going to target the 6th. It's pending the successful work at the pad and the successful certification of flight readiness, which I said we anticipate the end of next week. So I think we can keep an eye on those activities. If something happens that pushes us off away from the 6th based on the experience that we're having over the next week or so, we will certainly communicate that and be transparent about it.
Artemis II has already been pushed back from its original schedule. Every delay raises questions. Can the agency keep its timeline intact? Can it maintain public and political support? The stakes are enormous. Artemis is not just about a lunar flyby. It is about sustained presence on the moon. It is about competition in space. It is about proving that after decades in low Earth orbit, deep space is still within reach.
A 44-year-old Indian origin woman is taking Los Angeles by storm after her last-minute entry into the race there. Nitya Raman is being compared with the New York mayor, Zohran Mamdani, who won against all odds with an innovative campaign, among other measures. Born in the Indian state of Kerala, she moved to the US when she was 6 years old, while became a naturalized American citizen at the age of 22. She returned to India subsequently and founded an NGO named Transparent Chennai, which focused on bolstering slum dwellers' access to basic necessities like water, toilets, land rights. And after returning to Los Angeles in 2014, she initially worked in the office of LA's City Administrative Officer, where she analyzed spending on homelessness. Thereafter, she co-founded the Sela Neighborhood Homeless Coalition, which worked to help the homeless people. She also served as the director of Time's Up, an anti-sexual harassment organization created in the wake of the Me Too movement. In 2020, she created history by becoming the first South Asian person to be elected as a member of the LA City Council, the 15-member legislative body that governs the city. Professionally, she is an urban planner, having completed her master's in urban planning from MIT. The 2020 election is considered a pivotal moment in her career. Just like fellow Democratic Socialist Mamdani, she was a rank outsider who challenged council member David Ryu. While he was endorsed by ex-US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, she received the backing from Bernie Sanders. The Indian origin leader centered her campaign around issues like housing and homelessness. Her team included over 2,000 volunteers who knocked on 80,000 doors across her seat. Finally, she ended up becoming the first person in 17 years to defeat an incumbent LA City Council member. The mayoral contest has garnered a lot of attention as she is taking on the current mayor, who was seen as her close ally until recently. In fact, also faced criticism for her handling of the wildfires last year, which killed 31 people and displaced thousands. In fact, Raman has defended her decision to contest the election, citing a call for change from across the city. While announcing her campaign, the Indian origin leader alleged that the city administration was doing too little to address the housing shortage. With Asians comprising 12% of LA's population, all eyes are on whether the city will elect a mayor of Indian origin in June later this year. With that, it's a wrap on this edition. This is me, Molly Gambhir, signing off. Thanks very much for watching.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
campaigns, elections, alliances, controversies, and power play. Beyond the noise and rhetoric, no election, no ballot issue too small. Stories that analyze global and domestic politics, more than just headlines. A dedicated show with varied perspectives, expert take, citizens' voices, detailed ground reports, and in-depth coverage from political corridors of the world. This is Race to Power, only on WION. World is One.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders,